How livable is Milton, Ontario, and where are the best neighborhoods for families located in Milton? Well, in today's video, we're going to be jumping on the computer and breaking down the Area Vibes websites and how livable it thinks Milton is. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot I agree with on this list, but there's also a lot I disagree with. As if you don't know, the Area Vibes has a livability index and it takes into account 9 different factors, that being everything from the amenities, the commute, the cost of living, the crime, the employment, the healthcare, the housing, the schools, and neighborhood, and puts it in an index out of 100 and ranks each different city. Now, I can tell you right now, like I mentioned, there's a lot I agree with on this list, but there's a lot I disagree with as well. So let's jump on the computer and see how Milton's livability is. So as we can see here from the quick overview, it has a 67, lots of A's, but a lot of F's, and we're going to be addressing what those are and my thoughts on all of them. Now, in terms of the population data they have here is 142. I think it's a little bit higher now. However, with that said, pretty accurate overall. Median age is something to note as well, as a lot of cities median age is close to that 40 mark. So Milton is going to have a bit younger of a population, and that kind of just shows you how many young families are choosing to call Milton home. And that's one of the big things about Milton is the recent expansion, which we'll get to in a second. So if we scroll down here and we look at first the amenities score. So they've rated the amenities score an F, right? So how many local amenities are there? So if we first look at the parks, and we can see first and foremost that they do have some of the most notable parks. So the one that in my opinion is probably the most notable in Milton is the Kelso Conservation Area. This area here is great for hiking, but also mountain biking. Then in the winter, you can go skiing here, or also in the summertime, chill on the beach or canoe throughout this conservation area here. Then they do have some smaller neighborhood parks here, but I feel like they are forgetting a couple of other notable parks that I think should be mentioned in this list here, as Rattlesnake Park is another great spot that offers just spectacular hiking trails with amazing views, to the Hilton Falls Conservation Area, which is on this list here, but it offers a great waterfall as well as the Old Mills ruins, to just a bunch of neighborhood parks. So when it comes to parks in Milton, I don't think it's an F. I'd probably give it like a B minus if you're comparing it to Hamilton. Hamilton has a lot more parks, but it's much bigger. But with that said, if you're living in a neighborhood, you're going to have those traditional parks that you're looking for, which is what most families are looking for anyways. And then just a short drive out, you do have a lot of hiking trails and conservation areas still to capitalize on. So in terms of the entertainment column, again, you can see that they have a few things here. You know what I mean? You do have some great community centers in Milton that I forgot to mention, as you will find the Milton Leisure Center that offers drop-in swim times, sports, and a fitness center, to the Milton Sports Center that offers more gyms, but also an ice rink, an indoor track, and pool. Now, in terms of the entertainment, Milton is a more smaller town. It is going to have less entertainment than some of the bigger cities when you compare it to Oakville, Burlington, or Hamilton. However, with that said, I would say it doesn't deserve an F. I think there's still lots to do in Milton. As for me, one of the fun things I used to do a lot growing up around the Milton area was go visit the local farms. So they have the Chudley Farms here on the website, but 2 other great ones are the Spring Ridge Farms, which is one that I used to spend pretty much, it seems like every different season, I would be there with my family when I was growing up. So both of these farms here always have something going around that are very seasonal, whether it's the pumpkin patch, a haunted house, baking Christmas cookies, something in the summertime, corn. That's one of the favorite things about Milton, as well as you have a lot of sweet corn around that we used to grab. But the other great thing in terms of the entertainment is you have the casino and racetrack with the Woodbine Mohawk Park, as well as the Element Casino, to play some slots, but also to bet on some horses. Then one of my favorite pastimes that isn't even mentioned in entertainment here is you do have some fantastic golf courses in Milton. In particular, you have Greystone, which is probably one of the hardest courses I've played to date, but you also have Rattlesnake Point and the Royal Ontario Club. Now, in terms of breweries or entertainment, in terms of other drinking options, you will find a few bars throughout, but one of my favorite breweries in Milton is the Orange Snail Brewery, if you're into the craft beer. And then you do have a variety of events and festivals that do happen in Milton. So the entertainment is not nothing, as you do have the Milton Fall Fair, the Milton Rib Fest, and one of my favorites, the Butter Tart Festival. And then you do have the occasional smaller show. It's not going to be anything massive on the typical side. However, with that said, you do have the First Ontario Arts Center to go watch the local shows. So with all that in mind, I'd probably give the entertainment in Milton probably like again, a C plus, B minus. Now, in terms of the food and drink, as you can see, Milton is very lucky that they have a McDonald's, Harvey's. I don't know why they list this here. Milton does have a lot of great local gems to enjoy. It's got more than McDonald's, I promise you. So some of my favorite local spots that you'll need to take a look at are the Memphis Barbecue and Wicked Wings for amazing wings, but also amazing rack of ribs, especially for those football Sundays. To the Thai House for some delicious Thai food. To Blossom Cafe, which is the Chudlings Farms local downtown shop in downtown Milton that also has just a lot more local gems to enjoy, to also the Bombay Grill for amazing biryani chicken. So overall, I'd probably give the food and drink scene again like a B minus B, depending on what you're looking for. So overall, in my opinion, I would give like the amenities, like we'll call it a B minus. Now, with that said, in terms of like the shopping, which we didn't even cover here in terms of the amenities, Milton is going to have a lot of big box chain stores to choose from, as well, just a short drive away. Some in South Milton, some in North Milton. However, with that said, if you're comparing it to the surrounding cities, it is going to be a little bit less. So let's go down here and look at the commute time. So they give the commute an A plus, as 50% of the population drives to work, 5% take the public transit, 1% walk to work. So Milton is definitely a commuter city. A lot of people from Milton still commute into Toronto on a regular basis. Either through, you have the Milton GO train that will take you into Union Station, or also really it's just driving. That's why 50% drive. Now, with that said, there are definitely some bottlenecks. Now, when you get into Milton, it's not that bad. There are definitely some bottlenecks, as Milton has grown and expanded a lot. However, the city and the region of Halton are doing things in the city to alleviate that. But the biggest bottleneck I would say you're going to find is really on the 401, or as you're heading to or from Toronto, really during the rush hour times. So for that reason there, I'd probably give Milton like a B plus, because it is going to be a bit difficult, especially during those rush hour times, to drive home. Now, if we look at the cost of living, as we can see, it is currently rated at an F. And it really does matter what you compare Milton to get this cost of living scores. It's really going to be subjective of where you're moving from, as if you're moving from Toronto, Burlington, Oakville, or you're looking at those areas as well, the cost of living in Milton is going to be better. It's a bit more affordable. Now, with that said, there's a lot of new real estate options to choose from. So it does come at more of a premium than some older, smaller bungalows that you can find out in Hamilton, for example. So it's not the cheapest city to live in. However, in terms of like the cost of living, I'd say it's on par in terms of the actual food, groceries, healthcare, everything else along those lines there. It's pretty much going to be on par. Really, it's the real estate cost in Milton, because it's a part of the GTA, is going to have high real estate costs. But compared to the surrounding cities, it's really affordable. Now, if you're coming further, or you're thinking about going further out to like Guelph, Kitchener, Cambridge, those areas there can be a bit more affordable. So again, it really does matter what you compare it to. So I would overall give it like a C plus, just because it's in the GTA. Now, overall, I would have to agree with this score in terms of the crime or safety in Milton. If you have watched any of my videos, I'm sure you've heard me talk about Halton, which Milton is a part of. It's the region of Halton, so it includes Milton, Georgetown, Acton, Burlington, and Oakville. And this region here, for over 20 plus years, has been rated as one of the safest regions of more than 100,000 people for both violent crime and non-violent crime. And because Milton is also a smaller community, it definitely gets that advantage of being very safe. So would have to agree with that. Now, with that said, if you want to learn more about the safety, the crime statistics, I'd always recommend going to the source themselves. So the Halton Police Force actually has a crime map that you can go check out. So I'll leave a link down below for you to take a look at that there. Now, in terms of employment, it's given an A plus, as the median household income is $122,000 in Milton, 70% in the labor force, and only 4% are unemployed. So I believe those numbers are probably generally accurate. Which you can see here, the median income is 40% higher than Ontario, which tracks for pretty much all the GTA. Now, with that said there, in terms of employment options in Milton, Milton's a smaller community. Like I mentioned, it's more of a commuter town. So in terms of like employment in the city, it's less favorable. Now, with that said, there's a lot of people that, because you're so close to Mississauga, you're so close to just, Toronto or Burlington or Oakville, wherever the offices are, that the commute isn't that bad. And that's why so many clients either work from home that are hybrid, or have to commute in and don't mind the commute, because it's only a 20-30 minute drive in at times. So that I would have to agree with overall. Now, in terms of the health and safety, it was also rated in A+. Now, as you are going to find one major hospital in Milton at the Milton District Hospital, and then, of course, a bunch of smaller clinics throughout, as well as a variety of pharmacies, and pretty much a Shoppers Drug Mart, all within like a 5-minute drive, no matter where you're living in Milton. So would agree with that score as well. Now, in terms of the housing, what we have here is the median housing value, like we were talking about with the cost of living. is on the higher side, as it's above $1 million. As right now it's at $1,055,000, and 85% of Milton residents own the place that they live in, which is great to see. So if we look at the past 10 years for the median sold detached home, we can see that Milton is definitely more on the affordable side when compared to either Burlington, Mississauga, or Oakville. However, it again, like I mentioned, is a little bit more expensive. You're comparing it to Halton Hills or Hamilton. If you want to learn more about the real estate options that match your criteria and the areas we would recommend for you and your family when making the move to Milton, send me and my team a message today. But let's take a look at the next category they have here, and that's the Milton schools rating a B+. Now, as you can see here, the high school grad rates are about 90%, bachelor's degree at 36%, and school test scores are 71%, which are 7% higher than the Canadian average. I'm not sure how they get these test scores here, but what I can tell you is that Milton has 25 different elementary schools throughout the city, and of those 25, 22 of them, according to the Fraser Institute, which, if you don't know, takes the Ontario Standardized Test of grade 3, 6, and 9 and puts it into an index out of 10. So anything above a 6 is considered above a provincial average, and 22 of Milton scores recently ranked above the provincial average here. So in my opinion, that's a bit better than a B+. However, with that said, there were 3 that were below. Then in terms of high schools, you're going to find, again, 6 high schools in Milton. And in this case here, 100% of them are also above the provincial average. So because of that data there from the Fraser Institute, I would probably upgrade the Milton schools ranking to like an A- because it has lots of great options. The user rating, again, I never know where they get this from. Only 13 reviews, so we'll kind of skip over that because I don't know how valid all that one is there. But let's take a look now at the best family neighborhoods for you to live in Milton. And as you guys can see here, the #1 rated neighborhood, according to the Area Vibes website, was Dempsey, and that's right up here on the north end. Very popular with my clients that are thinking about relocating from Toronto, but still want to commute regularly into Toronto via car because you're right on the 401. You have lots of great shopping options right along the 401 as well. And that's why you pretty much have an A+ in every single category. Then #2 was Wilmot, just down here, kind of in a more of established neighborhood, but still newer, especially when you're comparing it to Dempsey. Now, with that said, the amenities when you're more in the south end, so that also includes the Harrison, I would include into that, as well as Ford over here. These areas here are going to be those newer real estate options, so lots of great options to choose from. However, one of the downsides, the furthest point basically away from the 401. Now, with that said, you can easily just drop down here through the country roads and jump onto the 403 or the 407 right in Oakville. So it's not that bad if you want to take the 407. It actually could save you a bit of time as well. Then #4 is over here in the Scott neighborhood. This neighborhood is great. Again, a lot more newer neighborhoods over in this part here. However, one of the downsides over in this area is that, again, you don't have much shopping options. With that said, you are right beside like downtown Milton or pretty close to it. So you get a lot of great options to choose from. #5 was Beatty. As you can see, the amenities were a little bit lower. I would have to agree with that, but with that said, like, you're not that far of a drive from all the amenities that are in Dempsey, would be my opinion on that there. Then #6 was Harrison and #7 was Clark. So if we go over here, where is 6 is right here. So we already talked about Harrison. It's on the nice western side, so really quiet. You have a lot of great farm fields. You're actually the closest to Kelso as well, which is a fantastic, afternoon to always spend it that way as well. It's my favorite park. And then we already talked about Dorset Park. That's right beside Dempsey right here. A bit more of established neighborhood, yes. So the homes are a little bit older, lots are a little bit bigger. And one of the favorites for my clients about this is a lot of them are courts or dead end streets, in other words. And as a result, they're just very quiet and peaceful. So another great option as well to choose from. So now you know the top 10 neighborhoods for families based on the Area Vibes website and their recommendations based on their livability score, as well as my thoughts on Milton's livability score and what I agreed with and what I disagreed with. If you want to learn what I think the best and worst neighborhoods in Milton are, that's the next video I'd recommend you go take a look at. So you can find that video right here. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day.